Hi there, my name is Andrea Hunt, and I'm a transformational life coach and EFT practitioner, and I'm so excited to share with Pearl today.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire, oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on, now there ain't no shade around here. Once you leave the clouds, you're under 80. Funny how there ain't no rain or clean. Why'd it take so long to leave you in the rearview mirror? Now nobody gonna steal my sunshine or turn my blue sky gray. All I know is at the end of the day, wildflowers grow when there ain't no shade.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl again. Welcome back to another episode of Women Successful Living. And I'm so excited because we have a fun guest today. But the really cool thing is she's my first guest to come all the way from Germany, but it's also from the US. So we're going to have some great conversations today. But I want to introduce you to Andrea Hunt. She is a transformational life coach and EFT practitioner who typically works with professional expats and digital nomads, or people who are trying to find the courage to take that big leap abroad. She helps women using mindset coaching and the emotional freedom technique known as EFT Tapping, one of my favorites. EFT is a mind-body technique that clears emotional blocks to confidence and empowers them to overcome sabotaging beliefs, those insecurities, procrastination that's playing it small, and staying stuck in those old patterns. Andrea's mission is to empower people to be the best version of themselves and feel good about moving forward in life. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know before we came on, you kind of gave me a story about what led you to Germany. So Tell us a little bit about that and what led you into doing what you're doing today.
So let's see. So I'm originally from Rochester, Minnesota, in the Midwest, and it's very cold there, as you, of course, probably would have heard. And so I always kind of wanted to go find somewhere else in the world to live. I just didn't know where that was. And I had no idea I would end up in Germany. But so anyway, when I was 20 years old, I decided to, I had worked for a year and a half. I saved up $15,000 and I was like, I'm going to go move abroad for 2 years. And and so I went to Mexico. I studied in university there. I studied Spanish first before I went to university because my skills weren't good enough then. And that kind of opened up this whole new world to me, just in terms of doing things by myself, because I went completely alone at 20 years old without speaking Spanish. And I'll be honest, the first night that I got there, I sat down there on the bed in the guest house and I just cried. And I'm like, oh my God, is this was this smart? Was this brilliant? Was this crazy? Was this stupid? And I had no idea how it was going to turn out, And actually, it ended up being one of the best decisions that I had ever done for myself. And I ended up, doing a lot of study abroad programs. I lived in Argentina and Italy. I love languages and cultures and people and just exploring the world. And so that took me to China. When I was 20 years old, I did the same thing, except for this time I wasn't really sure how to go about moving there. So I just got a teaching job for, 9 months. And I absolutely loved living in China, studying Chinese and everything like that. And so I moved up to Beijing because it was, right before the Olympics. This was around 2007 and everything was happening there. And it was so exciting for me. There's people from all over the world. And so I got to work there then. And then, of course, there was the economic, crash in 2018. And I remember talking to my dad and he was just like, you know what, Andrea, if you have a job, just stay where you are because this does not look good right now in the United States and, of course, Europe and, all over the place. And so I decided to stay there. So I ended up staying 7 years. And that was an amazing opportunity. I got to work for the Chinese radio, I was a journalist there and met some of the most incredible people that I probably will meet in my whole life. And but I decided, I wanted to get my master's degree. And I didn't want to go back to the United States to do it because master's degree in the United States are, as we know, really, really, really expensive and, get a lot of student debt. So I found a program in Germany, in Munich, and it was in English. So I moved here 10 years ago. And let's see, I'll fast forward through some of those years so I can get up to the time where I became a coach because I've always been into personal development, and I've always been kind of a natural, motivator, like, on the group projects, and the team leader and everything. So right before the pandemic, like I had a job and I was working at a company that was doing immuno-oncology, incredible job. I loved my colleagues. I loved what I was doing. But the parent company pulled the plug on like 3 different departments. And so we, like 80 of us, lost our jobs all in one day. And so I was thinking like, oh man, I would really love to do coaching. I really feel so passionate about personal growth and everything. But I decided to play it safe, and I had been offered another job at a startup, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to take it. There's no sense in, trying to rock the boat any more than, it's already happened, losing my job suddenly. And so I started, this job, everything was going great. And then, as we know, in 2020, guess what? COVID hit. So suddenly I found myself, in the first round of layoffs, for the people who had just gotten hired. And I was like, okay. And this was a really bad point. This is a really low point. I was like, how does this happen? Like, how do you get laid off twice in 1 year? Like, universe, what are you trying to tell me? And so I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? At this point, like, why not just go ahead and like fulfill my dream of being a coach? Let's just do it now. I had nothing to lose at this point. And so I got myself into the program at Animas UK. And thankfully, because of COVID, everything was online then. And we were able to do all of our sessions virtually, our classes and everything like that. And during the time that I was, once I started coaching, I was just noticing, I'm like, man, that situation, that limiting belief, like, I know that I could clear that with EFT tapping, but I wasn't certified yet, And so I've been doing it by myself for 10 years for a wide variety of, pretty much anything that had to do with my emotional health. Because I used to have really bad anxiety. And so I hadn't been able to find anything that worked really quickly. And EFT just completely transformed my life. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I need to get certified in this so that I can help people using EFT tapping. Because the more people that I talk to, there's really not so many people who knew about it at the time. And so that has been one of the biggest gifts, being able to be certified and help people with that, because, it's so quick and there's so many different things that you can use it for. And so because I've been an expat, off and on for the last, 25 years or so, and also now I'm kind of a digital nomad, I'm like an expat nomad. I have the freedom to travel as well. That's mostly my clientele, and also people who have really thought about moving abroad, but they just don't know if they can, take the steps and get the confidence to do it, because it's a huge life change, And of course, on the other side of that, there are people who have taken the leap to become a digital nomad or an expat. And to be honest, sometimes the ideas of, living abroad get a little romanticized, and we think, okay, my life will be perfect if I just live in Spain. And of course, nobody's life is perfect. Every single lifestyle comes with its own challenges, and hurdles, and especially being in another country and trying to navigate bureaucracy and visas and taxes and all those things. So those kind of people come to me as well, because they want somebody who understands like the challenges of living abroad. And, a lot of times you have confidence issues that you maybe wouldn't have in your own country. So that's basically who I help with EFT and transformational coaching.
I'm sitting here going, this is so cool. You're 20 years old and here you go off to another country, like to Mexico. And we know that's not the most safe place. As you heard, you actually heard Seth, that we talked to. And I'm sitting here going, how would I feel if that was, I have 2 boys, but let's say, how would I feel if that was one of my boys or my daughter? Like, I don't have a daughter, but if so, how does your parents react to that?
Well, I mean, this was 1998 when I went, so it was safer then. But I'll be honest, they didn't love it. And China, that was even more like, oh my gosh, Andrea. But they just kind of got used to me doing this. Like, oh, Dad, guess what? I'm going to Buenos Aires next semester. And they were just like, oh my God, Andrea, like, can't you just, go to Florida and try to take Spanish there or something, or California, But they've gotten used to it. But I'll be honest, they were concerned. I mean, especially, of course, in those days, like we didn't have cell phones and,
right.
The internet wasn't even a thing yet. I had found through it was like a travel book. I had found this study abroad program. So very different times.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it's so cool because, you know, that's a problem sometimes. And you see that in the coaching too. Like we don't take us that leap. We let that fear hold us back, and we let our other people's feelings towards our decision hold us back and not move forward. I think it's just so cool that you've done that. And then like to all these different experiences that you've gone through and experienced through these different countries and what you've done. And then COVID hit, like you said. And then I'm like going, wow. And then, layoff. And I have what's called a Shiro League. And I started that during COVID as well, because I found like women were struggling with going, I'm being a teacher and I have to do my job and I have to balance my house. And it's like somebody, Calgon won't take me away. So somebody help me. Right. And we just did it sort of a self-care kind of Sunday we started. And it's been Sundays ever since COVID. And that we meet at 8:00 every Sunday evening till 9 p.m. And we just work on self-care. We work on things that bring us joy. And I'm sitting there going, my son, as you know, passed in July. And he suffered a lot with anxiety and everything as well. And the tapping, I know I'm like you, I'm not certified in it, but I know about it. And I've done some of it. I've got a friend that's certified it. She'll guide me sometimes, but I think it's powerful for everybody to understand that we'll go through these stresses, these things that happen in our lives, like, not one, but two layoffs you go through, right? And how we respond is so important to our well-being. And you found the mechanism to help you work through that stress. And then what you did is said, let me look around because, what can I do with this talent? Which goes back to what I say all the time on the podcast here is that we come into this world, we have a talent, we have a gift. In fact, I talked about it this morning in a network meeting that if you don't work on it and develop it, I don't care who you believe in, God, whoever your higher being brings to you, you're cheating yourself. You're not allowing yourself that beautiful gift you have. But then the bigger part is you're cheating the rest of us because I don't get to receive the knowledge that Andrea has. I don't get to sit back and go, look at Andrea. She traveled to these countries. Okay. If my son, Nate, came to me and said he wanted to go, I'd be like, okay, she's done it. It's okay. It'll be a little scary as a parent, but I think they think it's so powerful to take that leap and to say, I'm going to do this. And so you've been in Germany now 10 years. I'm assuming you're staying there from what I can tell from you talking, right? So what's next with you?
Well, I'm staying here, but now like I'm kind of an expat nomad. So I'll leave for, a few weeks or months and I, can go to Spain, for example. And I've been going to Andalusia the last few years just to kind of escape the German winter. I'm not a winter fan. So I love Germany, for hiking in the summer and the springtime. But I've learned that as I've gotten older, I need sun more in January. And so, so that's like, this year I was in, Sevilla and Cadiz and, yeah, that seems to be a good place. And then I can travel other times that I want as well.
That sounds so beautiful. And it's so awesome. We went to Italy quite a while ago with our kids when they were much younger, and they had a blast. It was so much fun to give them that gift of other country and other, people and cultures and all that stuff. It was really cool. We we took them on a cruise one time. We went to Honduras and they were just like going, what do you mean they don't have Xboxes here? What do you mean they walk around? It was such a good lesson. And I think that's so powerful. So tell us about your coaching. Tell us about what you do and when your clients come to you, what kind of experience can they expect with you?
So I do transformational coaching and EFT tapping. And I think that in the majority of my clients tend to come with me with some similar issues. Like, for example, a lot of them are business owners, for example, but they have, limiting beliefs about putting themselves out there, and especially when you have a business, like, as you know, you have to market yourself. And for a lot of people, having to get on social media, having to talk about what they're doing, what services or products or whatever, or doing a Facebook Live or something like that can cause crippling anxiety in a lot of people, because especially a lot of people don't like public speaking. And so that's one of the things that we work on through tapping, that, if you are able to, like, for example, with limiting beliefs, it's kind of like a core, belief like an onion, and you have to peel back the layers. But once you can clear that and create little bits of proof for yourself, like, okay, maybe I can't do a Facebook Live, but maybe I could do a live Instagram story just for 15 seconds. And as you create little bits of proof for yourself, you can, manage your anxiety better, so that the next time where it's a little bit bigger challenge and you're stepping out of your comfort zone, that it doesn't feel like such a big deal. And some of the other things, I do a lot of workshops on limiting beliefs and negative self-talk, because, depending on whether we got them in our childhood, maybe we, experienced, something. Like the example that I get that's a very common, situation. Like, for example, if you're a little kid and let's say you go up into the talk in the front of the class and you try to give your speech or whatever, and let's say everybody laughs at you, and the teacher doesn't defend you or help you or anything. So in that moment, you just learned, like, I'm going to be judged. It's not safe to put myself out there and express myself. And, maybe you have a fear of social situations after that, And so, fast forward 20, 30 years, maybe your boss wants you to, do a presentation for a client, and you have all of this anxiety and fear that, even though now you have all these different tools, you've learned, you have a lifetime of knowledge, you still have that same fear. And so for a lot of people, if you don't clear that, it just kind of continues to affect your life, especially professionally, or socially. And then other people, like, for example, we just have different confidence issues, like I said, with living abroad as an expat, because maybe they don't feel comfortable, speaking in another language or being assertive during a meeting or something like that. So it's really a wide variety of issues, but those are some of the main ones.
And I like what you said when you shared your information, that we always ask our guests to give us some information about themselves. And I like what you said. While meditation, yoga, and exercise are vital for our mental health, nothing has transformed your ability to be both preventative and also manage your emotions like the EFT tapping. And I agree with you. Like you said, whether it's stress, angry, sad, overwhelmed, whatever those things are, you have to use it in every situation in your life, because like you went from being laid off, starting a business in another country. That's a lot, that's a lot to deal with, on top of all the social media talk and everything. And I think it's really powerful for the listeners to understand that we have to find the tools that work for us. We have to find the things that we're going to allow us to take care of ourselves. And oftentimes those many listeners on the show are either moms or they're working moms, and they struggle saying, I don't have time for this. I can't put myself first. And that's on this show, as I hope you're listening today, as Andrea shared, you have to make that time, because if you don't, you carry, like what you said, that you gave that perfect example of that child that stands in front of the classroom, gives a talk, and everybody laughs at them. It's like, wow, I sat there and I could think and be reminded of, my son has a friend who, he's a great dad, and is in a situation right now where he has a 5-year-old daughter who he's in this, child custody situation. And I said to him, there's some things happening with the mom, and some things were like happening with the things she was doing when he'd have his visitations. And I saw the little girl react, and I pulled him aside and I said, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say this as a polite way I can tell you, you better pull up your kahunas and fight for her, because what she is setting up in your daughter's mind is going to affect the rest of her life. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you want her to do is to be scared of her mom, scared that if she doesn't keep this Apple Watch on that mom's put on for tracking, she's going to she's going to think, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, that nobody's going to like me, or I'm going to get in trouble. So, mm-hmm. I really drilled into him, because our kids, that up until that 8 years of age, they absorb so much, and those false things appearing real get set in that head there, and it's sad, and it's powerful if we can understand how our words can make change too, and the mm-hmm. things we do, whether it's tapping, whether if you have to go to a therapist, you go see a therapist, whether it's meditation, whether it's whatever those things that work for you to help relieve that stress, it's really, really important that you do that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love to journal. I'm in Tampa, Florida. I have a swing in my front porch, and I love to go outside and just do journaling or sit in my backyard, just something, or even just go for a walk here because we've got pretty good weather all year round. Everybody runs to us, Andrea. They don't run to other areas. But I love that you share that. And so Andrea, what I would love to know is I want to share with you what we call Shiro and what it means. So Shiro, the S stands for strong. And I really feel like when we're strong and we can stand in that and understanding that I need to take care of my needs first. It doesn't mean I'm selfish. It doesn't mean I don't love my family and my friends. It doesn't mean I don't like my job. It just says, in order for me to do all those things first, I have to put my cape on first. And then so what I would like to know with you for the strong part is, my gosh, you guys, Andrea went across the country at a very young age. She was in China. She was in Mexico, and now she's in Germany. I mean, learning different languages, adjusting to different cultures, that's a lot of stress besides everyday life. I'm sure as, you probably had some, as we all go through, some breakups and things like that have happened. Where can you say you've gotten your strength from as you've gone through all these amazing things you're doing?
I think over time, as I've been able to better manage my emotional health, I think that has given me a lot of emotional resilience so that like I always know now that whatever happens to me, I'm going to be able to deal with it and I'll come out on the other side. And sometimes, I feel like when I was younger, I would get stuck in that like, oh my God, there's like no way out of this, And I think like especially being able to manage your emotional health, like when you feel yourself getting stressed. Okay, taking that 5 minutes for yourself and being like, no, I'm not going to go and do whatever I was going to do. I need to stop and I need to recalibrate so that I don't let, this go into the rest of my day and ruin it. Because I used to be one of those people like before tapping where I don't know, something would happen in the morning, like I know a bus would drive by and splash me and it would just ruin my whole day. And these kind of things especially happen in China. I don't know why, like it was just, you never know what was going to happen there. And I loved living there, but it was just filled with uncertainty. And so it was really important to learn how to like, okay, if I'm angry about this, how can I calm myself down? If I'm feeling really embarrassed about something, because I don't know, made a fool of myself at the grocery store saying something wrong and, people laughed at me. Okay, how can I calm myself down so that this doesn't affect how I think of myself as a person, And I mean, even like like you said before, I mean, like through breakups and all these things, just being able to have a tool that if I'm angry or sad or stressed or overwhelmed, I know that I can turn to it because I do use meditation, I use yoga. But as I was saying, like for me, I've always been somebody who's kind of anxious, and have a lot of energy and stuff. And so for me, I couldn't sit there and box breathe and just like meditate when I was so amped up. It's just like my brain was going 5,000 miles an hour, And so the active tapping was something that was so, instrumental to me just to be able to ground myself and kind of distract and use the breathing as I was tapping. And so it's completely changed my life, honestly, because I just know like, okay, I need to go take a walk and I can do some tapping, or I've done it on the bus, just like, because you can use also like the little points on your knuckles. I don't know if you've seen that. That's really good if you're in public and you're just like, okay, stressed about something. You're like, okay, I'm just going to do this until I calm down. And yeah, it's amazing. So I'm really glad to be able to share it because especially so many of my clients have had the same struggle and they're like, I just can't meditate when I'm stressed. I just cannot. And, yeah, so it's nice to have an alternative. And as you said, everybody's got to pick what works for them. But
yeah, and I think that's important for the listeners to understand is you have to find what works for you. And, I have, I'm a positive intelligence coach. So one of the things that I do, there's things that teach you on how to work through stuff. So I'm a big toe roller. I will roll my toes sometimes when I'm just like, I might be a little stressed or if I'm nervous. Or if I'm doing a presentation, I might stand there and just kind of roll my toes just to calm me down and make sure I stay focused. But it is true. It's so important, like you said, is to find what works for you so that you, and then also too, like what you said at the beginning is know you're going to come through it. Just because something's happening doesn't mean it has to be permanent. And like I always love to give the analogy that when you climb a mountain, it's not going to be an easy climb. You're going to get tired along the way. You're going to get hungry along the way. So if you can just stop and say, I'm going to make it up there. Let me just figure out what I need to get through this in the next stops, that I'm going to do. So I think that was a great example as well. And so the next is H, and the H stands for happiness. And I feel like as we do stand in the strength of using our voice, finding out what's going to help us to get through the challenges we're going to face, we start to feel happier. We start to, have that little pep in their step kind of thing. And so thinking about the word happy, what does happiness mean to you, Andrea?
So to me, I think it's being able to find moments of joy that you can create for yourself. Because there are some times in your life where, I don't know, happiness is not necessarily a constant state. We all have different emotions and we have different circumstances and things that are changing. And so, like, I think it's especially important to recognize that, like, we do need to feel the feelings. We don't need to kind of fake happiness to try to go around pretending that everything is fine when we're not feeling that. I think happiness now, and I'm 45 now, so this has taken me a while to figure out, is finding those little moments of joy, even if it's only, your cup of coffee in the morning, using gratitude, just being like, okay, I can be content about this in this moment. And obviously, like, the more things that you can look for and find, and if you can't find anything, create something, like, what would you need to feel happy for 5 minutes today? Okay, maybe it's just taking a walk around the block. Maybe it's looking at the flowers, the trees, or whatever. Figuring out what for you means 5 minutes of joy. Or, obviously, hopefully more, but being able to create for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. You have to figure out what makes you happy. And then we're actually doing an exercise right now in our Share League. We're talking about what brings you joy. And we're breaking down not just why does it, the thing that brings you joy, but why does it bring you joy? Like, really, let's break it down and tell me why it really brings you joy. Because, we can say, oh, the sun makes me happy getting up in the morning, but why? Because I know it's another day I get to do something that I love to do. Okay, that makes sense, And so I love that you said that it's also, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy 100% of the time. But again, tapping back into that strength that you have and going, okay, I'm feeling this way. Can I go for a walk? What can I do to go what can I tap with to make me, get a little more grounded in what's happening? And so I love that example you gave us. So then the next one is E, and that's empowered. So Andrea, what have you been empowered to do with your business that you're what's the next thing to come from being this empowered?
Well, what I would really want to do coming up is I want to do retreats so that we can have, I find there's so much value in, like, a community setting where you can all support each other as you're working on, confidence, personal growth, your anxiety, and being able to support each other, because I've always liked going to these, workshops and these kind of things. And so I want to do it in a nice, tropical place or by the sea somewhere, because the sea is, like, very calming for me. I love water. I love the sea. I love the smell of the air. And so that's what's coming up.
So the listeners know me well. I'm kind of laughing and chuckling inside. You want to come back to the United States in September? I do a retreat every year. We have a pajama retreat every year in September, and it's a no makeup. So the first day everybody arrives, we take off your makeup, and then we are in our PJs all week long. If you want to let your girls hang loose, you can let them hang loose. And we literally have, our house is, we have a walkway right out to the beach. We have a pool where the pool's half in the sun, half out of the sun. And it's just, yeah, so maybe you can come and do a little thing with us in September.
I will have a think about that. Thank you for the invite.
I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, she wants to do retreats. And the team and I are talking about where do we want to go next. Costa Rica's come up. Some other places have come up. So I was like, okay, let's kind of put some thought into this. So when you said that, I was like, oh, that's retreats. That's amazing.
That's an awesome idea. Thank you.
Yeah, you should come. That would be amazing to have you. And, and that's the thing, like, when you can be empowered to pay forward what you do and to let others see the gift you have. Oh my gosh, as you've done it, as I said earlier, and you are pouring it out, to watch everybody grow. That's one of the things I love about the retreat, is at the end of the retreat, when everybody's starting to go home, they're connected with other women that they thought when they came, they thought maybe they're by themselves feeling the way they were feeling. They've made this community, but yet they have this empowerment of going, I got this. I can do this. No matter what comes my way, I've got the tools in my toolbox now to help me. So I love that you share that. And so the next is R, and the R for me is radiance. I feel like as you get build your strength, you become happier, you become empowered to do the things for yourself. You get this new glow about yourself, and it's like you walk about, like I said earlier, pep in the step, but like this, you've almost got like this angelic look around you, right? And so radiance, it can mean so many different things. When you hear the word radiant, what does it mean to you?
I don't know. I guess I thought the first thing that came to my mind is confidence and a sense of pride in how you're growing, how you're developing as a person, how you're, able to reach more people and be able to help them and live your purpose. And I think that does give you a natural glow up when you know that you're living in alignment with your values and what you're supposed to be doing.
I was on mute. No, I totally agree with you. That's why I love that word, that letter in there, because you're right. You like you said, you glow up. You just have this like you stand up more straight, and you've got this more confidence in you, and you just have this glow about yourself. And so the last letter is O, and that stands for original. And because I believe, we are our original selves when we're little, like we were saying earlier with these little girls, and then things get told to us or false beliefs get put in our head. And as you start putting on that cape, you're starting to see that superpower. You're actually tightening that cape around you a little bit more, because that's really what you want to do. It's some people compare it to filling a cup, but if you can get that cape wrapped all around yourself and hugging yourself, you start feeling that original self that was just a little lost for a little while. And so I love the word original. And so thinking about original, what is something original about Andrea?
Well, I don't know. For me, it's always been important to be authentic. And I think if anything, I always took the road less traveled. So it was never really the thing for me that I was trying to be unoriginal or fit in, or that just never kind of worked with how I am. I always had all these different interests, and especially being in Minnesota, I mean, it was kind of weird that I wanted to just pick up and move to Mexico. So I guess being authentic and true to yourself. I would say, I mean, it's strange because with other expats, I don't have such a different story to tell. But then, I mean, for people who maybe haven't left their countries or something like that, it sounds, quite original that I've lived in 7 different countries, including the US, or moved to China. I guess one original thing was I was taking Chinese as a kid because I had a kindergarten friend and her name was Jing. And so I really wanted to go visit her in China when she moved back. And my parents thankfully always supported my language learning and everything. So they said, well, if you learn Chinese, then we'll go to China to visit her. I never unfortunately kept in touch with her, but but I did move to China later on. So that's kind of a weird way to tie it back into my childhood and dreams.
Isn't that interesting? Like you, as a child, you had this vision, and then look where it brought you. And that's so, we get these visions in ourselves. We don't listen to it all the time. We don't tap into it and see where it can bring us and what it can bring us and how it can change our lives. I just love that you're doing that. So I know everybody's asking, we're sitting here talking about tapping. So explain to everybody what tapping is, Andrea.
So tapping stands for the emotional freedom technique. And basically, I don't know if people can see it, but basically you're using your fingers to tap on acupressure points on the face. And this sends a signal to the amygdala in the brain to stop the body's fight, flight, or freeze response. And I mean, it looks a little bit funny. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, I don't understand why or how that would work, but it does. And so, I mean, it can be used in 2 main ways. And the first is, of course, as I mentioned, with emotional health, being able to release negative emotions, anger, sadness, whatever. And then, of course, for some of the bigger issues that have an emotional charge, and cause anxiety or stress, like limiting beliefs, like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, common ones are like, I'm too whatever, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too thin, I'm too fat. We all have these, beliefs. And so that's basically how it works. You start with the negative rounds of what you want to articulate, the negative things that you actually feel. Because a lot of times we're so conditioned to be like, I'm fine, I believe in myself. But then there's that negative little voice that's like, you liar, You aren't good enough to apply for that job, or you aren't good enough to talk to that person. And the problem is that if we don't articulate it, then we can't clear it. So it's important during the negative round, you really get it all out. And especially with stress and anxiety, that you really, you go through all the what ifs, like, what if they laugh at me? What if they judge me? What if everyone hates me? What if I look stupid? Whatever. Because once you get it all out, then you can also do a positive round of affirmations. And the affirmations really, really hit home when you tap with them. And so it's completely different, if you just stand in front of the mirror and you're like, I'm confident, versus actually tapping it in, like, I'm open to being confident. I'm willing to be confident. I choose to be confident. And it's transformative. And I love, my favorite thing is looking at the expression on the person's face once we've released all of the negative parts. And I just had a client the other day at the very beginning. I mean, she was so anxious. She was literally like crying and angry and just, beside herself. There was a really difficult situation. And like an hour later, she was laughing about it and just like, this is totally fine. And being able to know that I have some part in helping at that is just spectacular. And I'm glad to have this as a tool.
So for those that are listening, if you want, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see exactly how the tapping, Andrea showed us the tapping on her face and then knuckles earlier. And that's at Conversations with Pearl on YouTube. Go there, like us and subscribe. But I think I've got a good friend who does it. And so sometimes we'll sit together, and you're right. It does release this, and it does put a different sense of our affirmations into us when we say that, and we can touch it and feel it. It's like you're touching and everything and feeling it at the same time. So Andrea, we're all about self-care here. And I know you do a lot for yourself for self-care, but if tomorrow was not promised, as we all know, it's not promised, and you had this last day on earth to go do the top self-care on your bucket list, what would that be?
Anywhere?
Anywhere.
I think I would go to the Maldives. And I would go swimming, and then I would get a massage. That would probably be the top of, if there were no limitations whatsoever, and had all the money in the world and the world was going to end, that's what I would do. Something that's very cleansing about water, being able to swim. And massage, of course, would be
that's
amazing.
My bucket list vacation. I love them all. Is it? It's so beautiful. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
I've seen so many pictures. I'm just like, oh man, someday.
I know. And here's the thing: I'm not a swimmer. I live in Florida. I almost drowned as a kid. My parents didn't put me back in the pool, so I had this fear of swimming. And I still was like, I want to go. My husband's like, how are you going to get there? Most of the thing you're swimming. I don't know. I'll put my feet in the water. I'll figure it out. I'll put a life jacket on. I love that. I love that. So, talking about self-care, what do you think is the biggest challenge when people have that negative talk about, I can't, no time? What would you tell somebody that comes to you and says, Andrea, I hear everything you're saying, but self-care, I'm so busy with my kids, with my job. What advice would you give them?
That's a difficult one. I mean, because I always say, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so especially, I know with like a lot of moms, there's a tendency to be like, I can't take time for myself. I just can't. And the thing is that it's important above all to realize that when you take time for yourself and your emotional health and your mental health, you're able to show up better for other people. Because if not, you're going to be frazzled, stressed. You might get triggered really easily. You might, yell or get upset when you really don't need to. And so I always say, like, you need at least 5 to 15 minutes. And so my advice is always like, if you can even just like go tap in the shower, or like if you're going to the toilet or something like that, just, give yourself a few minutes. Or even at work, if you can lock yourself in the bathroom for just a few minutes to do some tapping, even 5 minutes a day is really helpful, especially in the morning, because that's, what really sets the tone for the rest of our day. I mean, and of course, there's a wide variety of, YouTube videos that you can use. Brad Yates is always one of my favorite. And there's the Tapping Solution app, for example. So just 5 minutes per day. Everyone has 5 minutes, and if not, need to need to figure out how to rebalance a couple of things, because I know it's really difficult when you especially have other people depending on you, but it's really, really, really important.
I did not know there's a tapping app.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Tapping
pretty cool.
solution.
That is
Yep.
really amazing. Okay, all the listeners go find the tap. What's it called, Andrea?
It's called the Tapping Solution.
The
And
tapping
then there's
solution.
another one by Jean Monterastelli, and I think it's called I can't remember the exact name, but you can Google it, Monterastelli. So
Interesting. I love that. So tell us, Andrea, the other thing that we're working on in the Share League is we're working on what brings us joy. So they had to make a list of the 10 things that bring us joy. And like I said earlier, they really had to break it down. So tell us your top 3 things that bring you joy and why do they bring you joy?
So as I said, water, first of all, is like one of I love swimming in the ocean. Like I have always been kind of a little water baby fish. Like I love pools. I love being by the ocean. And so for me, definitely being in the ocean and being able to swim is probably the freest that I will ever feel. Like I absolutely love that. I also like simple things. Like I love buying myself flowers. I hate that that's become such a cliche these days, but I have always bought myself flowers. I love cooking. I love being able to, nourish myself. I love exercise, and hiking is another one of my favorite things. Like, and as I said, living in Bavaria has just been incredible, in terms of hiking, because, I can go 1 hour outside of Munich and be standing on top of this, mountaintop overlooking Austria and Germany, and it's just incredible. And I think travel as well as, something that has always brought me happiness. I love new experience and new things and new foods and, talking to new people. And I really love learning as well. So that's one of the top things about exploring that I've loved.
I love that. I was sitting here thinking, have your parents come to visit you in all these countries you've been at?
Yeah, my mother is retired now, so I've been able to meet up with her in Spain the last 2 years. So
Nice. That's
which has
awesome.
been wonderful.
And do you have any siblings? That was my next question.
Yep, my sister's in Georgia, where my dad is, and then my mom is in Minnesota. So I was like, I don't really want to go to Minnesota in the wintertime. No offense, Mom. Can we go to Spain? Because I never got tough in Minnesota. Everyone's like, you should be used to cold and snow. You're from Minnesota. I was like, no. I never adjusted to it.
Well, yeah, we lived in Northern Virginia and I did not like the cold at all. I did not like the cold. And I was from, I've done a triangle around the US two times. So it was always warm to start with. So the cold was not my thing. So that's awesome. Okay. So the other thing that they had to do in the Share League that they're working on is, we make lists to go grocery shopping, make lists to make time for ourselves. We make all these lists, but creating the not to do list. What do I need to stop doing that's not allowing me to get to my joy? So what would your top 3 things be on your list, Andrea, of the things you have to stop doing?
Is this like on a daily basis or just in general?
Just in general that would keep you from getting to your joy. Like would stop you from getting to the beach, those kind of things.
That's a really good question. I would say in general, I mean, I think I'm like everybody, I have to kind of stop myself from, being on my phone at night and stuff like that, before bed. I think I've had to train myself to try to see the good possibilities in something, in things, instead of being like, what if this happens and this goes wrong? Instead being like, what if it turns out better than I could ever imagine? And things did really go well, or I did get, whatever situation that I was looking for. I think that just kind of really being conscious of how I'm thinking about things. And also I think reminding myself, this was really important. It's a bad day. It's not a bad life. Because sometimes, especially sometimes you get like 3 things in a row, like in the morning, and you're like, okay, that's it. The day is.
It's a bad day, not a bad life. I love that.
Like just remembering that when things are just not going well and it's kind of in a spell, just be like, okay, first of all, it's a bad day, it's not a bad life. All right, how can I protect my energy right now? Need to go tap, recalibrate, and I can keep going fresh,
That is,
But I
I'm
think,
going to remember that. It's a bad day, not a bad life. I love that. I'm writing that one down. All
yeah.
right. So now you've got, you know what brings you joy. You know what you're going to stop doing that keeps you from the things that bring you joy. So it's the end of 2023, Andrea, and you're sitting back in Spain because you don't want to be in the winter, and you're enjoying your favorite beverage, and you're reflecting on your year. What has your year been like for you when you look back on 2023?
Well, hopefully awesome. I mean, one cool thing that I have been taking part in this year is part of the She Rise Collective. And so I'm fortunate enough to be chosen to be with about 30 women, and they're just all incredible. They're, coaches and mentors and authors, and they've done TED Talks. And I feel so incredibly grateful to be part of this because I also know that how much I can learn from them. We can all learn from each other. And so we have a bunch of, virtual events and some in-person events. And so my goal would be to be able to get to at least two of the events. And these are in the States, so I have to just see how it lines up with my calendar and everything. But my goal is to be able to do, a speech on the stage at least one of the events and be able to share my story and, my toolkit when it comes to coaching with other women and with the world. That would be amazing.
I keep hearing retreat, share your toolkit, come to the States, share,
Yeah,
speak. We got you covered at the retreat, my girl.
it's sounding better and better all the time.
I'm telling you, on the beach, you'll be in your PJs. You're gonna love it. It's awesome. I just loved it.
Yep,
That was a
heavy.
great, and I've heard of the She Rise too. So you have to tell me more about that offline. But I've heard about them, and I have a couple other people that have been involved with them before. So that's amazing, and it sounds like it's an amazing, amazing year. So I'm so excited to see at the end of this year. And I'll reach out to you while you're sitting there drinking your beverage on the beaches in Spain and confirming, knowing that it's already happened for you. So I think it's so powerful. So I want everybody to know where they can find Andrea and what's coming up for you in the next couple months. Is there anything you want to share with the audience?
Sure. So they can follow me on my website, dreahunt.com, but obviously like on social media, I'm quite active. They can find me at Instagram at living.deliberately.today. And on my Facebook, I'm also Andrea Hunt, Transformational Life Coach and EFT Practitioner, and on Twitter as well. And so my cool thing that I have coming up in the next few months is I'll be having a workshop, and I'd like doing it on negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, the self-sabotaging narratives that we have about ourselves. And then I also like to integrate it with EFT tapping at the end so that people really get a taste of how does it work and how could it work for me? Because it's just so powerful. The first time that you can actually do it, for procrastination or playing it small, it can be so transformative. So that I usually try to do those, once every other month. And my cool thing in March is I'm going to be starting like Monday night EFT tapping circles. So in the US, it would be like, I guess, lunchtime-ish. Because Mondays are so difficult for a lot of people. Nobody likes them. And so I thought, okay, that's actually a good day of the week to have just a little 30-minute, stress-free Monday tap along, and then have different topics, self-love, negative self-talk, things like, okay, I made a mistake at work, different themes. So that will be really exciting. But yeah, just basically if they follow me on social media, they'll be able to stay up to date.
It sounds like a great thing to do on a Monday. It sounds good. Good way to start your Mondays off too, as well. I just love that. We're gonna make sure we put everything out when we share everything. You'll be able to get all the links with Andrea to everything she just shared, and you definitely want to check out the EFT tapping. That's amazing, and I just think it's so cool. I'm sitting here like going, "Wow, how cool is?" We're actually. What time is it there, Andrea?
Almost 11:30 p.m.
Oh my gosh. So it's almost near, she's not too far from midnight from the next day. And here she is joining us, and look at her energy. And I know that's from her self-care, from her tapping, from just being present in herself. And that is such a cool thing, Andrea. I just think that's amazing. I can't wait to see all the great things that are about to come and your growth and follow you more. I just think you're an inspiration. And if you're thinking about like, I think I might want to travel the country, I definitely think you should reach out to Andrea and talk to her about her tapping and help you prepare for that. And if you're a mom listening, going, please don't tell my children to travel. It's okay. They'll be fine. Andrea is a perfect example about that. So I
They'd
think
be like,
that's so
Andrea
cool.
said it was okay.
She said it's all safe. It's all safe. All right. So we have already forewarned Andrea that we're going to do our cards. So we have our Better Questions, Better Life cards, which you can go to betterquestionsbetterlife.com and get these cards. Carol and Diane Allen created these cards and they're just phenomenal. You can use them for meditation. You can use them just if you're having a day, like Andrea said, maybe you're having a day, everything's going wrong, pull a card and just like think about the card for a little bit. You can journal on it. You can maybe even draw a picture on the card. So we're going to shuffle it. Andrea's going to tell me when to stop. We're going to ask her about the card. So here we go, Andrea.
Okay.
Tell me when to stop.
All right. Stop.
All right. So what can I do to be more open-minded?
Is this like I'm giving a suggestion on how to be more open-minded, or I'm saying to myself?
It's for yourself. Think about yourself.
Oh, okay.
How would you answer that card for yourself?
I always think the first step is to be curious. And when you don't understand something, or when something is new to you, or when it sounds odd or different or whatever, I think the first step should always be to be curious and be like, okay, so why is it like that? Or what's something that I hadn't considered about it, or something like that. So I think curiosity is always a good place to start, because it has like a positive connotation. You know what I mean? You're open to finding out more information and everything. So that would be a good reminder, I think, for myself.
I think that's cool. Curiosity is definitely a great thing, because I think sometimes we get in a world where we're just our glasses are just closed. We don't want to look and we don't open up our minds, but it doesn't mean you have to just go, whoop, I'm opening up my mind. You could just start small, right? And just go, like you said, Andrea, just go take a little bit of that curiosity and just be, what if I did a little more self-care? What if I stood in the shower for 5 minutes, but just let it run on me and not worry about bathing? What if I did sit on a front swing? What if I did go across the country and start doing something I've always wanted to? Because if you've been listening to the show long enough, you know that I lost my son last July on the 25th. And there's one thing I learned from that, is that when Matt was here, he saw me put my cape on first, do things for myself. And he used to say, I don't understand how you can deal with this situation, or that thing happens to you, or this is going on, and you still are like, I'm going to put my cape on first. I'm going to take care of me first. And I said to him, we had this conversation because he was going through some things himself, and he watched me have to end a friendship, a really great friendship. And I said, if I don't put my cape on first, or fill your cup, whatever you want to call it, I don't have the extra material that I'm going to wrap myself to then wrap you into that cape with me. And so for me, Andrea, I'm like, I can't live my life differently today just because he's not here. If that's what he saw me do and that's what inspired him, why do I change my life now? And like you were saying earlier, it's a choice. And many of my friends could be like, if she hid away, if she just stayed depressed, like certainly would understand it. But really, there's so much more to life that we have to live. And we don't know what 30 seconds from now is going to happen. I mean, literally, I was on the phone with my son, talking to him, said, I love you. And then he passed in a car accident. So you just don't know. And so that's why I do the show. And that's why we have the guests to come on, like Andrea, because I want you to have the tools. I want you to have the techniques. I want you to have the resources that if you feel like as a CEO mom that you don't know where to start to put yourself first, I want you to do that. I want you to have these resources. And if you're struggling with that, then just come join us on a Sunday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. on the Shiro League. We meet up on Zoom, so you can take your makeup off. You can have a bandana around your head. We have Andrea comes in all the time. She's got this cute little bandana she's always got after she's done her self-care. But I'm going to tell you, it's a great way to end your Sunday and end your week, but it's a great way to start your week. Because if you can take that time for yourself, it's an hour. 1 hour just to sit and be with a community of women that are just like you, trying to find balance in their life, trying to stay focused on their joy, trying to reduce the things that that doesn't bring them that joy. That's what the Share League is about. And so I hope as you listen today, I hope you were inspired by Andrea. I know I was. I'm ready to go across the country. I just got to get myself all packed up. And I just want you to know, if you want to be part of that, all you have to do is email hello@wsliving.com. That's hello@wsliving.com. And just in the comments, just put Shiro, and we'll get you everything you need to join us on one evening of the Shiro League. Because I want you to remember that as you come into this world, you are this little rough oyster on the outside. You got some things you got to do to polish up and find out who you are inside. But as you open that oyster and you polish it up, you find your inner pearl. And I hope you go out today and you find your inner pearl to greatness. And I want to thank Andrea for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.